In a famous experiment at Emory University, researchers taught capuchin monkeys a simple economic exchange. A monkey hands over a small pebble, and in return, it receives a mundane reward, a slice of cucumber. The system works perfectly until the researchers introduce a discrepancy. If that monkey performs the exact same task, but watches its neighbor receive a high-value sweet grape, the perceived value of the cucumber vanishes. The monkey rejects the exchange entirely. It throws the cucumber back at the researcher, slams its hands down, and enters a state of visible rebellion. This behavior illustrates the equity theory of motivation. It dictates that individuals are driven to maintain a balance between what they contribute and what they receive. When they perceive an imbalance compared to their peers, the resulting tension demands resolution. Human workers share this exact biological imperative. If an organization's pay structure feels arbitrary or unequal, the psychological foundation of the workplace begins to fracture. To prevent that kind of primate-level rebellion, human resources cannot rely on intuition. They have to quantify fairness across 4 specific forms of equity. First, there is external equity, which measures how a company's pay compares to the broader market. Then, internal equity, which evaluates how fair a pay rate is when compared to different jobs within the same organization. Down here, individual equity compares coworkers performing the exact same role. Finally, procedural equity gauges the perceived fairness of the process used to make those pay decisions. The challenge is taking highly subjective daily duties, like answering phones or managing supply chains, and translating them into an objective, mathematical system that satisfies all 4 of these quadrants. The solution is a strategic pay plan. It serves as an architectural blueprint, stripping the emotion out of compensation and replacing it with defensible data. The foundation of this blueprint relies on a process called job evaluation. This flowchart shows the methods used to establish internal equity by formally comparing the relative worth of different roles. The simplest approach is the ranking method, listing jobs in a hierarchy from highest importance, the office manager, down to the lowest. But ranking breaks down quickly. It's highly subjective, lacks standardized metrics between ranks, and becomes unmanageable as headcount scales. Organizations often try the job classification method, categorizing roughly similar jobs into distinct vertical grades, like administration or sales. While easier for new jobs, it relies heavily on human judgment. The boundary lines between a secretary and receptionist remain vague and prone to bias. To achieve true procedural equity at an enterprise scale, organizations have to abandon qualitative grouping entirely. They need a rigorous quantitative model. This is where we turn to the point method. It is an analytical tool designed to strip subjective bias out of the compensation equation. The point method breaks any job down into universal components, illustrated here as compensable factors. Rather than looking at a title, evaluators look for core traits. The 4 most common baseline factors are skills, effort, responsibility, and working conditions. This table mathematically scores these factors. Step 1. Assign percentage weights based on strategy, like weighting skills at 40%. Step 2. Assign a 1 to 5 degree for each factor. Finally, multiply degrees by weights to generate a final numerical output. Here, 240 total points. A complex qualitative job has successfully been converted into an objective, defensible integer. Those 240 points guarantee internal equity. But a number in a vacuum doesn't pay rent. To ensure external equity, those internal points must be cross-referenced with real-world market salary surveys. This scatterplot maps that relationship out. Internally evaluated job points sit on the x-axis, and average market pay rates sit on the y-axis. By calculating the relationship between these variables, the organization draws a trend line, creating the official corporate wage curve. Managing the unique pay rate for every point value is too complex. Instead, ranges are grouped into functional pay grades, represented by these blue boxes. The vertical distance between the minimum and maximum rate allows employers to grant salary increases for performance without a promotion. This interlocking architecture of points, wage curves, and pay grades forms the absolute backbone of a market-competitive pay plan. There is a critical caveat. The point method is highly effective for standard roles, but it breaks down when applied to managerial and professional positions. Executives are not evaluated on static demands like working conditions. Their value is derived from abstract factors like judgment, strategic complexity, and problem solving. Leadership compensation requires a different approach. Instead of a standard wage, executives receive a multi-tiered package, splitting base pay, short-term incentives, long-term incentives, and perks. Boards rely heavily on performance-based pay to align the executive's financial interests with the company's long-term strategy. While standard roles are priced primarily on their functional capacity, professional and executive roles are priced almost entirely on their outcomes. Let's zoom out. The wage curve we engineered dictates direct financial payments, the base salary, but a competitive plan doesn't stop there. Establishing total compensation requires the complex integration of indirect financial payments, commonly known as benefits. The first layer of benefits is pay for time not worked. This includes paid vacation days, sick leave, and parental leave, which are critical for employee retention. Next comes insurance and safety nets. Organizations build in coverage for workers' compensation, life insurance, and health maintenance organizations, or HMOs, to protect employees from catastrophic out-of-pocket expenses. The package is rounded out with retirement pensions and flexible cafeteria plans. These allow employees a specific budget to customize their final layer of benefits to their personal needs. These indirect benefits are just as crucial as the base salary. Without them, maintaining external competitiveness and satisfying procedural equity is impossible. Which brings us back to the Capuchin monkeys. The experiment proved that handing out rewards arbitrarily, rather than through measurable input, inevitably invites rejection. The highly technical architecture of compensable factors, point matrices, and wage curves serves one deeply human purpose: transparency. A strategic pay plan proves to the workforce that the distribution of rewards isn't random. It is driven by an objective, testable logic. Strategic compensation provides the structural engineering required to maintain the psychological peace of the entire enterprise.